It has been such a delight to hear those who have spoken to us before and the questions that you've had. The engagement has been marvelous. I think we're really going to enjoy this next session. Introduce to you Maya Yasmanovich, who is the project manager, the European Large Families Confederation from Spain. She's also actually home from Poland, and she'll tell you a little bit more about what she does. We're looking also forward to hear from Emma Howlett, who is a Wheatley Institute scholar from Brigham University. And we are really pleased to have the youth contingent. We need the perspective of our young adults. So I'm going to turn the time over to Maya.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And first of all, thank you that we have this voice, like you want to hear our voice, because to be honest, I'm in this field of family, and also in Poland, in Warsaw, I'm a member of Large Families Association in Poland, and I'm a volunteer there. And I can see that politicians and people, they don't really want to ask questions directly to young people, and I think that's what we really need now. So thank you so much for this conference and for the invitation. And I would like to start with something, I guess, positive, because when I was going through some research, I saw that still people, majority of people, they want to have children. But I think they want by heart, but somehow they don't want by head. I mean, some factors are stopping them. And when I saw it, I realized that when I talk to my friends and who are my age, which means in the middle of their 20s, they really want to have children. My girlfriends, I think most of them are saying that family is something they're really looking forward to start to have children. But on the other hand, they have some problems, and I will maybe tell you some about it later. But that's what I wanted to say in the beginning, that we still have, and I still have some hope that it might change. If we do something, people really want to have children. So just we can somehow discuss and find some solution. Okay, and maybe also some other something about me and my background, because I think it's crucial here. I have 5 siblings. I'm the oldest one and the oldest sister. So I was for 3 years the only child, and then I had a brother and then another brother, and finally I have 4 brothers and 1 sister. And for me that was such an experience to observe my family changing, having more children, and having different dynamic through the years. And for me, that was really, really a good experience, being raised in large family. I can tell you now that, and this is my testimony, I would say, that I really appreciate being raised in large family. And for me also it was surprising that when I was talking to my friends who were sometimes the only child, they were surprised that I'm happy to be raised in this environment of some other people, my siblings, being at the same place and not having maybe sometimes enough attention from parents. But I didn't really have this experience. My parents did really great job, I think, raising us. So I saw and I realized that about families and also about large families, usually people are speaking out loud when they already have this family. I mean, parents, for example, they are somehow discussing it, but there is lack of this voice of young people who were raised in such environment, and we started to talk about it out loud. We created a group of young people who wanted to talk about family and wanted to ask this sometimes difficult questions. What do we need, and what is our experience after being raised in large families? Then also some people who weren't really from large families joined us because they also wanted to talk about families. And we started to organize youth congress about family in Poland for Polish young people. And it was surprising because we had so many people from different bubbles, I would say, not only religious people, but also people who weren't religious at all. And they were just exchanging their context and also their experience. And they were telling us why we have some problems now to decide if we want this family or not, what are the main issues. And so now I think maybe that's the time to say something about it. I mean, to share these young voices and what are the reasons and what are young people now saying. So first of all, I think many people have real problem of finding the right person to start family with. That's, I don't know, that's what I heard from my parents and my grandparents. That wasn't an issue years ago. Now it is. I have many girlfriends and they're 25, 26, and they really want to have a family, but they just can't find someone to start this family with. So that's, I think, a real problem now. And also, we were talking about this before, but I see that we don't have community. I mean, for example, for men, I think maybe scout members, scout teams are places where you can find some community. But now we are not living anymore in communities, so we don't have this experience from our friends of our age. So that's also why we are not sure if that's the right decision to make and to start a family. Also now, I think we can agree that young people have so many different options, like so many. We can travel, we can do some exchanges, also Erasmus exchange. We can do some scholarships in different countries. We have so many opportunities that becoming a mom, becoming a dad, seems like something, I would say, sort of losing something. I mean, when you are young, you have to somehow explore the world, try to do as much as you can. And this is also, I think, one of the reasons why we are not very into starting families now. And also, what I was discussing lately was that now our standard of life is much higher. I think maybe in Poland, especially after Second World War and then after communism. So my parents and my grandparents, they lived in totally different conditions. They didn't have much. And now us, our generation, is the first generation of having, I think, everything we want. So again, starting a family means that you have to maybe lose something. You can't go to the restaurant if you want, because you have to be really careful about your finances. So this is also something I hear from my friends, that they are just afraid of losing their normal and the standard of life. And also one more thing that is, I think, not only in Poland but everywhere, it's housing crisis. I mean, now for young people, it is almost impossible to have a flat, to have a place to start this family. If you have some support from your parents, then it's possible to maybe somehow manage to do this. But on the other hand, if you want to buy something, it's really almost impossible, and I think it's like this everywhere. And what I wanted to also say about some research, and what's for me really shocking, is that in Poland, the most suffering from loneliness group is not elderly people, is young men. And also I was talking to my friends, and they say that that's how it is. Because young men, they don't have this friendship, they don't really know how to sometimes start this conversation and some emotional conversations, and this is also a real problem, and I think we should do something about it, and we were also discussing it before a little bit. Also, one thing is that people now are saying that they're afraid of climate change, and they think that if they bring newborns, new children to this world, they're afraid that this is gonna end really bad, because they don't know what this world is gonna look like in few years, in few maybe not, but in in the future. So that's also something I think we should address. And also I was doing some research on this, especially on large families versus like not climate change, but sustainability. Yes, sustainability. And actually, maybe that's not very surprising, but for me it was a bit, is that families are really using less of the resources than one like single household, and also Ding's household, Ding's which is double income, no kids household. So again, it is not like family is somehow a threat to our climate and to this eco things, but it might be a really good it might be a chance for us. Okay, I see that I have to finish. So, what can we do? And I want to tell this. I think we have to talk to young people. We have to address those difficult questions and hear the answers and really try to somehow help them. But as we saw, as we've seen, there are so many problems, and we have to somehow prioritize which one are the most crucial for us now. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Fascinating. I'll look forward to questions that come out from your topic. Emma, I'll turn the time to you.
Awesome. Okay.
Give her a microphone.
Should I get a microphone?
I borrow that one.
I can speak pretty loud. Can you hear?
Because we
We need it
recorded.
recorded, that's why.
Okay, got it. Is this okay?
Uh-huh.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I'm so grateful to be here and to share a young academic perspective. I kind of wanted to focus my remarks on how to change and shift the cultural narrative through policy and media. And so, for my background, I'm an incoming master's student at BYU. I'm studying marriage, family, and human development, which is kind of the research track. I want to go into academia. I'm really interested in couples relationship research, but also just general global family trends. And over the past 4 years of my undergraduate, I just barely graduated, I've been studying the challenges that families face. But I think more importantly, I've been married for almost 3 years. I'm the second of 6 kids, and I'm part of an imperfect family that is still trying to work on our communication and our cohesiveness and our love for each other, but we are trying. So before I get into kind of the trends and things that we're seeing through America, I just wanted to share a few pieces of information about younger generations and what we value and what we trust, because we want to be able to harness the power of this room and the experience of the younger generations to be able to make a difference. And so one of the things that we really value is authenticity, being genuine and transparent. And so the information that we receive and the sources that we view as trustworthy kind of shift our view of society. And so it's really important to work through the sources that younger generations trust and to communicate and convey family life as something holistic and kind of giving voice to multiple perspectives. And so we're also really interested in diversity and those voices and in mental health and well-being. And so as you're kind of pushing forward these narratives, these policy changes, make sure that you're focusing on the whole perspective, that you're giving an authentic voice to diverse perspectives, and that you're portraying family life as something that's possible even with mental health, even while taking care of your overall well-being. So we've been discussing trends all day today, especially in Europe and some in America. And just to touch on those again, we are experiencing a decrease in marriage and divorce. The numbers in marriage are decreasing and the numbers of divorce are decreasing. And then also a decreased fertility. And that is because we're seeing this delay in age of first marriage and age of first childbirth. And we're seeing kind of cohabitation or living together as a replacement of that. We're also seeing that each generation is less religious than the last, and that's continuing to happen, especially for the first time we're seeing more women are leaving religion than men, which is really fascinating, especially among the younger generations. We're seeing kind of an interesting development where it's a social norm that you don't have to raise children in a two-parent home. That's something we'll come back to. And then we're seeing this kind of family life transition where we're viewing it as an option, as kind of a later in life privilege. Once we're kind of settled in, especially for those that are in higher income families or that were raised with kind of this like educated mindset. You're supposed to wait on family life until you've kind of gotten yourself settled. And then also we're seeing that these efforts, these tax credits and other things are ineffective in a lot of ways. And so you could say that in some, younger generations are just having trouble trusting institutions. And that's something that we've kind of visited a little bit, but we're having trouble feeling hope in putting family life and marriage first. And so there's a few explanations for this. These are just a few. This definitely isn't all, but these are some of the things I think are really important. And we're seeing that there's this divergence, this split between men and women in religiosity. Again, women becoming less religious than men for the first time ever. We're also seeing that there's a political divide and that women are becoming more educated. And so in a way, men and women are becoming more different. It's a challenge to date and to connect with each other. And we're seeing this like shift that follows socioeconomic status lines. We're also seeing this increased social media influence, and we've been talking about this a lot today, this kind of isolation and loneliness. What Maya said, that the youngest generations are actually the most lonely, is true in America as well. We're also seeing this kind of commentary around sexuality, that younger Americans see pornography as a problem. And also this culture, many people are saying that this culture of sexual consent, where two adults, if they're consenting, anything is permissible within sexuality, as a problem because it doesn't account for the gender dynamics and the power dynamics of this relationship. And so people are consenting to things that they really don't feel comfortable with. There's regret afterwards. And it's something that we're seeing as a problem because this leads to challenges and anxiety and fear towards entering into a relationship. I think more importantly, though, there's some deeper things going on here. One is that Maya mentioned this. There's so many options. As soon as you graduate high school, for the first time in history, we're seeing that young people can choose anything they want in any direction and any order of those things that they want. And so it's becoming more and more difficult to feel that there's some structure or some way to go, and it's not the norm that we put family life first. I think more importantly, though, we're getting this narrative from our parents and grandparents, older generations, that we should wait to be ready. And that doesn't even necessarily mean prioritizing career and education, although that is true. We're also seeing that you personally should be ready to marry the right kind of person. Make sure you don't marry the guy with the red flags. Make sure that you've got yourself situated and ready to be able to have a family and be the mother or father that you want to be. And so with this narrative, which is very helpful in some ways, it also encourages putting these things off. And it's almost as if we value family life so much as younger generations, with all the things that we've heard, the stories that we've heard about families, we value it so much that we're afraid to enter it unless it's not perfect. And I think that that is honestly the best explanation that we have for why these trends are the way that they are. We're afraid of entering into a marriage or starting a family because what if things aren't perfect? And I personally have experienced this. I grew up in a family where my parents really struggled with their marriage, and they continue to today. And trying to enter the dating world and preparing for marriage in that kind of environment with the examples that I did, I was so afraid of what was going to happen to my marriage and family, because the only models I had were ones that I didn't want to pass on. And so for me, it was really difficult to navigate this, knowing that I had such high hopes for myself and my relationship. And my husband and I spent about 2 years, I'm almost 3 years married, but we spent the first 2 years of our marriage in a really difficult place where I was genuinely contemplating divorce as the only option. And I can say now that we're out of this space, and it was our commitment to each other and our religiosity that got us out of that. And so while this is something that I'm seeing in other people as well, I just want to say that I personally have experienced that, in that it's scary. And there's so much pressure on young people now to be able to perform within families. And so the best thing that we can do is change that narrative and offer young people solutions by an example, a model that they can see as successful, that they can see women who are married to men who support them in their careers, and mothers who are able to raise their children and still maintain their sense of identity. And so I think that's really important. We really value family life, and we are struggling to commit because we're so afraid. And so, in summation, from my personal experience, I would recommend that we work through sources that younger generations can trust. That includes social media, but it's not limited to that. That we advocate for religious freedom as a channel for promoting families. That we provide diverse and hopeful narratives about family life. And that we treat issues as holistic and offer a comprehensive support for families. And in conclusion, if we change the narrative about family life, it's going to require offering a variety of stories that show family and religion in a positive and realistic light from sources that we trust in formats that we can connect with. Thank you.
Oh, I appreciate these perspectives so much, and I would love to hear what you have to say as I listen to these young women and their perspectives on young adults and how they're approaching or not approaching marriage and starting families. It really struck me. They talk about there's a feeling of lack of community and lack of feeling belonging, and young men feel lonely more than any other demographic. And what have we done? What have we done over the last couple of generations, or a couple of decades anyway, that have created this feeling? I think when you talk about economic challenges that you mentioned, as well as the understanding of the benefits of a marriage and family, how do we teach that? So maybe I'd like to start with Maya. You talked about the sustainability and climate issues and economic issues discouraging marriage and childbearing. How can we educate young people to understand the benefits of marriage and family?
That's a very difficult question.
It is.
I think one of the maybe solutions is to somehow research and have some data about this context. I mean, family and climate. We should do something, and we should research it more. Because when I was writing my thesis and my papers about it, I couldn't find any real data about is family like about consumption. That's the first thing, but. About families and this climate change at all, like we don't have any data about this. So I think that's what you also, Emma, said. We young people, I think we like to see real proofs about something. Now I can see that also my friends, I think I have the same problem. We don't really trust media anymore. Like it's so really hard to read something and then think that this is for sure truth about. And then data, I think we still really see it as something worth to focus on and to trust. So I think, and I would say, we have to do more research about that. And then go to young people and tell them. For example, as I said, with these households and resources. For me, it was really surprising. And now I can tell it, I can say it, and I can somehow try to convince my friends that really, if you have family, it doesn't mean you are anti-eco or, you know, it's, so I think that's my answer.
Very good. You know, it sounds like we need to educate young people so they understand and then help them to share with their friends. It sounds like that's the most trusted source is one another.
Yes.
Yeah. Emma, let me ask you a question. You know, the choice to become married and have children seems a challenge for a lot of different reasons. And you mentioned at the very end about your fear of getting married because of your personal experience. I know a lot of young adults have had the exact same experience. They have not grown up in families that have been intact families, strong parents, strong role models for parenting. How do we teach young adults the resilience and determination in marriage to understand that it's not a perfect union as you begin? I can say I've been married more than 50 years, and we're still learning things. We're still learning about unity and harmony, and you know, if you give up in 3 years, you'll never have the enjoyment. So how do we help young adults get that perspective, a long-term perspective?
Yeah, well, I think Kind of like what I was talking about before, I think it comes back to the way that we talk about this narrative about family life. And if we believe, like most of society says right now, that unmarried women are happier, or that adults without children are happier, then we're missing some of the core of what makes family life so beautiful. And we know that those trends aren't true, that married women really are happier, and that mothers are happier than non-mothers. And so I think that a lot of it comes down to understanding that. And if we continue to tell our children and grandchildren that you've got to wait until you've got the right person, I think that that's important, but we're placing too much emphasis on the starting and not the long-term process. And so I think if we can both model in our own relationships and push for narratives and policy that talk about longevity and commitment, I think that that will help a lot more young people get through those tough times. And I can say that personally, and push through and find something beautiful within that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think about young people who are very determined in their careers, for instance. They're willing to spend several years in university, several years in their graduate degrees, or whatever they've chosen for their life work, and they're willing to stay with that. But are they willing to stay with families? How can we help them to do that?
I think understanding that it's not always going to be easy, because people do understand that in their careers, but they somehow expect family life to be easy.
Very good point. Yes.
To jump in exactly on your last comment. So, and thanks for your enthusiasm. It's very refreshing. So both of you mentioned this. I mean, in the case of Maya, I mean, this lack or void of talk about family life that you needed to feed yourself. Like you built up your group of people that discuss that, and in the case of Emma, you also spoke about this lack of good narratives about the family. So it is true that we, for at least 20, 30 years in Europe, probably even more in the US, we have been talking to young adults or people in high schools about their need to prepare for the work life, that they need to plan strategically about what they choose to do, that what they're going to study is going to have consequences through their own life, and so on and so forth. And nobody tells them that probably the most important choice of their life is not about what they study, but who they marry, and whether they stay to that with that person, and how early they do that. So I mean, there's certainly a lack of formation on these matters. So also Pope Francis mentioned it a few years ago. He made this point that we actually train priests for 5 or 6 years before we get them to priesthood, but we get away with just 5 meetings, and then we let people marry. And actually priests have a way out of priesthood, whereas there's no such thing as that. And he asked for early on preparation to marriage, but so early on, like you have to intercept kids when they are in high school. When you start to talk to them about the university, maybe it's already time to talk to them about family. So I'm wondering how, I mean, is that resonates, and how would you see that? I mean, would you see something like done in schools, or where do you think we should start to talk to, at what age, and where, and in what ways about the family?
Do you want to start?
Sure, yeah. I think a lot of this comes down to who should bear the responsibility for this kind of training. And I think that it's important to realize that it's probably got to be a dual effort. The more that we through schools can promote these narratives that we're starting families sooner, and that family is a valuable thing, and that you'll find a more meaningful life through that, I think that's valuable, but I think it also needs to come through the family. And so it's almost that like two-pronged effort. And if we come at it from both sides, they're hearing it more often, and that's going to really stick.
Yeah. I would say we have something like this in Poland. It's a part of our education. It's like, I don't know how exactly I can translate it, but it's something like life education, education about life, and also I think family. There is this word, but now it's becoming, and our politicians are trying to do this more about sex education and something like this. So in the beginning, it was supposed to be exactly what you said, this preparation for starting a family. But now, as you probably know, because it's all over the world, the topics are different. So I think it should be like what you said. I have the same feeling that we have to really think who should be the one responsible of somehow doing this preparation for you, because now we are so divided. I mean, we have so many different, also with this meaning of family. I can see in my friends groups that some of them think that family is mom and dad and children, but some of them now think it's someone and the cat or a dog, and they somehow describe it now as a family. So this is also a big now issue, I think, for everyone. What is family and how do we really describe it? But I think, for me, I'm getting married in 3 months, so soon. So I'm just right after. Yes. So I had my course. It was a church course, and it was fantastic. I have to say, I know my fiancé since we were, I would say, children, because we were both 12, which means we know each other, I think, half of our lives now. But still, this course, it was something very new to me, to meet him in totally new perspective, asking some very difficult questions, writing some letters that we don't really do, because why would we? But on the other hand, I think that shouldn't be the last time for us for such a course. That's what you said. After getting married, I think that's the moment when you should have some, maybe once a year, or maybe even often, some moment when you can meet with your spouse and talk through some very very important topics. And also, I was talking to my friends who are not religious at all. And when you want to have a not normal, but only civic marriage, right? Not church one, you don't have to do any preparation. You just go, you can just book your visit, and next week you can get married. And I think it should be really obligatory to have such a course, maybe not in religious sense and without this element of it. But then I think everyone should be more prepared and have some tools how to deal with some problems that comes in your marriage after. So maybe not in high school then education, but something after you get married. And that's from me.
Thank you. Oh, did you have a comment over here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I'll speak about it. I didn't hear what you just said. Now I'm going to have to step out. But I have a question.
From a youth perspective, I'd like to know. I like to tell myself it's not very long ago that I was a youth myself. I think I'm still pretty young. But one of the things that I struggle with personally in this, we talk a lot about narrative, and there's a lot of storytelling, and I'll get into more of that in my presentation as well from my perspective. But something I find difficult with the current youth is these two waves that are happening for you, I think, and you confirm some of it, is lots of fear-based mentality, and then there's this perfection problem. So I have a question in terms of how to, when we're trying to promote these family values. I have a great marriage. I didn't grow up with great role models either, but we've managed to create what we find to be a strong union between me and my husband. But when I engage in public debate, I find it difficult to find a balance that touches the youth in these two problems: perfection culture and fear of
of things going wrong or not being good enough. So on the one hand, being honest about the struggles of marriage, and it can take many years, and even after 50 years of marriage, you will still have some issues and things you need to work on. And then promoting and showing all the goodness and the greatness of marriage. How do we, for the youth, find a balance where we don't scare you with the real problems and the effort it takes to be a family and to be married, so you're not surprised when you have a family. But on the other hand, talk about the greatness and how wonderful it is without putting this pressure of perfection on you, because it seems to be two things pulling you away from family formation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Would you like to go first? Or?
You can go first.
Okay. Well, I think that that's a great question. I think that captures a lot of the essence of what we're dealing with here and the challenge. And so there's not going to be an easy answer for that, but I honestly think that continuing to ask that question is what's going to get us out of it. And I think having dialogue around that question of let's balance kind of this like what's challenging and also what's good about families and have that be the full narrative instead of just one or the other. Kind of pushing that narrative point again. One of the best theories that has guided me spiritually is a concept by Bruce Hafen, who talked about navigating the balance between the real and the ideal. And I think for me that like applies to a lot of things in relation to family life. And as you navigate these things, you have to be true to both. And that's when people really can relate and understand. And so you have to give voice to the diversity of different family life experiences and recognizing that people either come from difficult families or are going to have difficult families or both likely. And then also speaking to that, like, we're continuing to work for the ideal. And I think that you can't crush the ideal because in doing so, we no longer have any hope.
I would add that I really want to become a mom, and I know for sure, the only thing I know for sure, is that I'm not going to be perfect, but I want to work on it. I mean, and I think that's what my mom taught me, and that's why maybe I'm not afraid to, to become a mom, because she's not perfect at all. But on the other hand, she was always listening to us. When I wanted to tell some things, maybe difficult to her, about also her behaviors, she was listening. Maybe she was also not really being on the same page with me, but I knew that she's trying to be the best mom for us. And I think that's something that is inspiring me and convincing me that this is a good way, the right way to just become and start a family, not perfect one, but just work on it through some future years, and that's something.
Great. Heidi, and then.
Is it on? Oh, it is. I didn't have to push a button. Thank you. It's been very refreshing to hear the voices of youth and the different things and challenges that you're going through. And now you have pointed out, and also Lisa pointed out, the fear-based and the perfection, culture that really thrives among young people, also as I see it in my work. And then I was just thinking about something that maybe we haven't talked about and we haven't covered in the conference today. I think I'm going to put it into context, and you might find it a little bit weird, but I hope you can grasp what I'm trying to signal with it, and then I'll get back to my question to you. Sunday was Mother's Day in Denmark. I don't know if it was most places in Europe, but it was there. And many years ago, I learned not to expect anything. Even though I usually did, I was like, okay, Heidi, you're done with it. Because my husband would jokingly say, well, my mom's dead. So she's not here anymore, and your kids, they need to find out by themselves for fun. Anyway, so I don't expect anything when it comes to Mother's Day. And this Sunday, I was busy because I had to go here, so it was like, oh, they don't need to come today. So that was just on a personal level. But I received a text from one of my sons that just showed me family life and what it's all about. My son, he has grown up as a child in the church, because we brought all our kids to church, but he is a homosexual. So he's had a really tough life, both living in the church, living in a big family with a lot of boys. So he's had a difficult life. And apart from that, just being a homosexual is also a really tough life. Apart from that, there's a lot of issues with that. And he's been very, very private in his life and had a hard time talking with us because he's also a very private person. So it has been some hard years for him. He became married, got divorced a couple of years ago, and that set off momentum for the two of us to start having talks that we never had before. And he's the person in the family that we kind of joke with, and this is lovingly meant, he's the Grinch in our family. So just to kind of, we don't frame him as that, but that's what he comes out like once in a while. And he does not talk about his feelings or anything. But this is the message I got from him this Sunday. I love you, Mom. Thank you because you're you. Thank you because you're always there when one needs a good advice or you have need of a hug or somewhere with a bed, a safe place. And this is the one I want you to get. And thanks because you've given me all my lovely siblings. Best mom in the world. I would never have thought he would say, thank you for all my siblings. But what I'm coming back to is, it's the long haul. It's keeping on. It's keep doing. And then I want to get into instant gratification. It's not something that we really have touched today. The youth of today, but also a lot of adults, are getting used to the instant gratification because of this, with the blings. Oh, I want a kick, and that kick it gives you. I think the youth of today, they're growing with the instant gratification, and then with the perfectness and the fear, that maybe makes a threesome. That kind of hits youth as well, and thinking, I want that, and I want it right away. Things take time. So what's your take on that with me saying instant gratification? Is that a thing that is hindering?
For sure. I think maybe I didn't even think about saying this because for me it's granted. I mean, it's that's the truth about youth. I think it's for us something totally normal. We want everything very fast, and we are living fast. That's also another thing, that family and being in a long-term relationship, it takes time, and it's not very comfortable to to manage to have it in a good condition. And yes, I think that's a real problem. And to be honest, here I'm not that optimistic, and I think it might be unsolvable. I mean, I don't know if we can solve this problem.
I would agree. I think that instant gratification is definitely something that, especially our generation, but everyone is kind of getting used to. And I realized that even in myself a couple days ago. I'm like ordering things on Amazon and I'm like, why isn't it coming? It's like you're so used to just getting what you want right away. And if you have the resources, then it's just automatic. And so I think, yeah, it's definitely going to need to be like, we're seeking out the stories of people who have done it and who have stuck through the long haul, and we're like bringing those to the forefront and helping people realize that this is something that takes commitment. It takes a long time, but like you said, there are people that are doing it, and even with your family, that's something that you're going to continue to see as your children continue to grow up and for the rest of your life. And so bringing those stories to the forefront and saying these things happen and it's possible, and people are doing it, people are defying the odds, they're defying the trends. And it's something we want to continue to see.
One more, Candace.
Thanks for you guys being here today, and appreciate the conversation we're having here. I think, too, you're grappling with a very real issue. And as someone who grew up in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I think, too, growing up, it was once you're married in the temple, your life is set. And I will tell you, getting married was the hardest and best thing I've ever done. And I wish I'd had a lesson on marriage is going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. And I think that's the challenge, is sometimes not overselling something and managing expectations. But I also think it's interesting, since you're both women, I will tell you, because I've got a 20-month-old and a 6-year-old, I will some days, and I don't say this in front of my young child, but with my husband, I'll say it's easier for me as a legislator to negotiate with the governor than it is with our 6-year-old. And I am not lying. That guy has more tenacity, my little boy. And it is not sexy. Motherhood, some days you are covered in spit up and bodily fluids, and I have the ability to be able to be an adjunct professor, I'm going to be a legislator, but you also feel a little bit of imposter syndrome, I'll be honest, to go in between the two of them. And I think you also question yourself a little bit. And so I could see how someone who maybe starts off their career, right, because I think a lot of women want to launch their career before they commit to having children. And I'll tell you, people tell you you're doing a great job at work. They say thank you. They praise you. And so there are some days where I've had a full, and the women are laughing at me, but like my husband travels a lot for work, and when he's gone 7 days and he comes home, he knows. He comes home and he says, honey, you've done a great job. The house looks amazing. The kids are happy. Like, I really appreciate what you're doing. And he means it. But you almost, in marriage, it took me a while after having kids to tell him, I don't have a boss telling me every day. My supervisor is upset most of the time, my 4-year-old, right? Like, and I need that because I was used to working in a career. And so I do think we're in a world where women can have everything, right? But we also are straddling all these lanes. And it probably is easier not to be a mom. It is. I guarantee it. But it is totally worth it. And so I think that's also this instant gratification is the trade-off of getting something fast and easy or something that's built to last. And so I don't know how you convey that other than trying to be realistic and authentic on, yes, some days are hard, but it's worth it. So I appreciate you guys being here.
Well, our time is up. I think this has been fascinating to hear their perspectives, and I think we all have an opportunity now to work on ways to encourage young people to participate in marriage and child rearing. I think one of the things that they mentioned was data. Can we create more data? Can we encourage those to find information? And then we need to share that information with young people so they understand both the real and the, what was the other? And the ideal. And I think if we can help that to happen through young people, because they trust one another, don't they? They're more likely to listen to one another than they are to a gray-haired grandma, unless it's their own grandma. So thank you so much.